Another day for the history books today from Donald J. Trump. An astonishing display from him in the White House today. Donald Trump meeting with the president of South Africa and attempting to ambush and humiliate that leader inside the Oval Office. Trump peddled unsubstantiated claims of genocide in South Africa of white South Africans, a group that ruled during apartheid in South Africa. It is a fringe conspiracy theory pushed by the likes of Elon Musk, Tucker Carlson, and David Duke, the former Grand Wizard of the KKK.
We take from many locations if we feel there's persecution or genocide going on. And we had a lot of people. I must tell you, Mr. President, we have had a tremendous number of people, especially since they've seen this. Generally, they're white farmers, and they're fleeing South Africa, and it's a very sad thing to see. But I hope we can have an explanation of that. It'll be the end of the country if it's not.
Once the lights were dimmed and the television was there, they played a video that Trump claimed showed evidence of genocide against white farmers. Here's the reality as reported by the New York Times. Quote, there have been killings of white South Africans, but police statistics show they are not killed at a higher rate than other South Africans. And while the South African government did pass a law permitting the government to take land without compensation, the process is subject to judicial review.
Even in the parliament, and they're a small minority party, which is allowed to exist in terms of our constitution.
But you do allow them to take land.
No.
You do allow them to take land.
Nobody can take land.
And then when they take the land, they kill the white farmer. And when they kill the white farmer, nothing happens to them.
No, there is
nothing happens to them.
There is criminality in our country. People who do get killed, unfortunately through criminal activity, are not only white people.
Let's talk about George Floyd. You said George Floyd's death was a terrible thing.
Terrible.
Why are African Americans still dying at the hands of law enforcement in this country?
And so are white people. So are white people. What a terrible question to ask. So are white people. More white people, by the way. More white people.
Hello, fam. I want to discuss the clown show that recently happened in the Oval Office with the South African president and Individual 47. Now, first of all, we all have to understand who and what we're dealing with. We're dealing with a little man. No, in fact, we're dealing with an incredibly small man with an incredibly large ego, and everything always has to be about him just to prove to the world that he's some sort of tough guy. But we all know that Donald Trump isn't a tough guy, especially given how he's responding to Vladimir Putin's recent attacks on Ukraine and his previous meetings with Putin himself. But have you ever pondered or thought about that they never had these openly candid discussions with Putin, President Xi of China, or Kim Jong-un? Well, that's because he respects them, in some ways even fear them. But look at what they did to the president of Ukraine. But at least Zelensky did push back a little bit. I remember seeing Trump and his mental midget VP call themselves so-called checking Ukraine's president on national television. And that's a tall order coming from J.D. Vance, since he literally doesn't have enough courage to check his own fellow white supremacist brethren when they were verbally attacking and mocking his wife because of her race and Hindu religion. And he's supposed to be some sort of tough guy or alpha male. What a weak man. But Trump is also a weak man, and we see it with individuals that he feared. And we all see this as he usually only talks about how they, being the president of China, Putin, and Kim Jong-un, had a great conversation and how much he respects them, even when they are misbehaving according to Western standards. But he never, ever so-called checks them in public or in a public arena. But I'm going to put a lot of this on the president of South Africa more so, because we all know what this Trump guy is. He's like a 5-year-old child, as he has a history of trying to impress others and often lying and overinflating his value or contributions to any given topic. But the president of South Africa allowed these bozos to just ramble off and embarrass him in a public setting. Of course, he tried to maintain a certain level of respectability and decorum, so much to the point that I immediately lost respect for the man within seconds. First of all, we all know that Individual 47 is lying and his claims have been proven to be lies. But I also was fascinated by the weak and docile attitude and lack of awareness of his own history and current events of his own country. The South African president basically looked comatose during most of that open meeting. See, what Trump said in that Oval Office would have immediately triggered a negative response from me if I was the South African president. I would have rattled off at least 15 straight minutes of South African history starting with pre-apartheid until today.
From your speech at Kane College in 1960, Chief Luthuli, the head of the ANC, received a Nobel Peace Prize, you reported to your audience, reminded them, for nonviolent struggle. Just like Mandela just received it with F.W. de Klerk. How could you stand with your oppressor and your enemy and receive the Nobel Prize for nonviolent struggle? You do not support, then, Nelson Mandela's strategy in the struggle to free black people in South Africa?
Let us first of all be very clear here, Phil. Nelson Mandela is my brother.
So
he
is
a
Jesse
member
Jackson.
of the family, and so is Jesse, and Jesse is a very brilliant man. We just want him to return home and stop being used by the enemy and the oppressor against his people. Now back to Brother Nelson Mandela. And certainly we can never mention Nelson without mentioning Winnie Mandela. But Nelson Mandela's attempt at a multiracial government in South Africa after the murder of men, women, children, and babies, and the rape of South Africa, a criminal settler colony that has been established like Israel there in that part of the world. I cannot go along with one man, one vote. Let me say why. If someone broke into your home, Mr. Donahue, and actually bum-rushed your home, and Black Boots stomped your door down, and came in and robbed and raped everyone in the household, and was able to take the wealth of your home and parlay it into an empire. This is an invader. This is an intruder. This is a murderer. This is a burglar. This is a criminal. So you have no responsibility to share your home with them after they broke in and committed the crimes that they did.
See, whites only love to start with today or flat out invoke their white revisionist history that makes them appear honorable and pristine. I also would have straight up told him, hey, look, that land belongs to my people, not your people, not the Europeans, my people. I would have utterly clowned him so much in that Oval Office, he either would have never done it again or they would have never invited me back to the White House again, which would have been okay. But this is a prime example of a man on the take. What do I mean by that? Well, this situation tells me that the president of South Africa is either owned by the wealthy whites in South Africa or he needs the United States for money. Likely it's both, as I heard what sounded like he said something about needing U.S. funds and drones from the U.S. I think the drones he mentioned were linked to Starlink. Doesn't Elon Musk own Starlink? See, the South African president is in their pocket, both Elon Musk and Individual 47's pocket.
You watched the whole thing. Give me your analysis.
I mean, it was an astonishing display. It's kind of a circus that he has now with these sprays. Instead of actually going in and talking to the world leader, he kind of puts them on display.
For him?
I don't know. I guess for his own audience. I think part of what I find amazing too is that he has no impulse control, so he just keeps taking questions instead of saying, okay, we'll take some questions after we talk. But one of the things that's tragic about this is that the U.S. cut off about $400 million in AIDS funding to South Africa. That's huge. That's PEPFAR money that has saved the lives of millions of people in Southern Africa. They don't have that in their budget where that money comes from. They have to raise taxes. Those are children dying, families dying, mothers dying. So part of the reason that I think Cyril Ramaphosa came here is to say, look, we do need your help.
It's off the rails, Nicole. And, the one thing you can say, I suppose, is that by this point, maybe the world is getting used to, I would say, discounting things that the President of the United States says. So, at some point, I think you reach a kind of there he goes again situation. Not to diminish how astonishing this spectacle was, but now it's sort of becoming part of the Trump show. It was like you when that tirade against Ukrainian President Zelensky happened in February. We all thought, how can this be possible? We've never seen anything like this, and now we're seeing it again. It's becoming the new norm, which is not to normalize it, but I also think, Nicole, at some point you have to wonder when foreign leaders are going to try to avoid being put in that position. I spoke to a foreign policy professional who is in constant touch with foreign diplomats, who said he was aware of some foreign leaders who actually are hoping to avoid invitations to the White House because they don't want to sit there in the Oval Office with President Trump and just have these, to get berated or to have some kind of a circus breakout. And it just makes diplomacy extremely dysfunctional when the president is so volatile, so unpredictable, and as you point out, relying on, debunked, misleading or false information in the way he forms his opinions. It's going to make foreign leaders want to keep him at an arm's distance.
This was pretty much the situation the Ukrainian president was in. He was in the Oval Office needing something, and he pretty much got owned by two egotistical jerks. No modern-day global leader is just going to outright respect a beggar unless that global leader can get something really big in return for their financial support. If Ukraine loses this war, the United States really don't lose a whole lot, to be honest. Also, any prepared leader from South Africa would have immediately known that Elon Musk would have been in attendance and properly prepared if the meeting would have went sideways, which it did. Man, you see, this is the reason why I have such an incredibly mixed opinion of Nelson Mandela. Because if any of these black leaders would have been brother Ibrahim Traore or Malcolm X, that land and wealth would have been returned to the rightful owners, the black South Africans, on day one. And if brother Khalid Muhammad was in charge, those colonizers would have been expected to leave the country entirely.
You said about South Africa, we give him, that is to say, white people, 24 hours to get out of town by sundown. That's all. If he won't get out of town by sundown, we'll kill every white that ain't right that's in sight in South Africa. We kill the women, we kill the children, we kill the babies, we kill the blind, we kill the cripple, we kill them all. We kill the faggot, we kill the lesbian, we kill them all. You say, why kill the babies in South Africa? Because they're going to grow up and oppress our babies, so we kill the babies. Are you seriously presenting yourself as a man interested in the future of your people with this kind of rhetoric?
I'm just as interested in the freedom of my people as I am in the self-determination or the Kujichagulia, self-development, them being self-defining, self-respecting, and self-defending. If the white man has killed millions of our people and you cannot deny the undeniable and indisputable and irrefutable truth, fact, proof, and history of their bloodshed there in South Africa, I said it would be merciful if they would leave. I don't agree with a government, a sham government. No man walks out of prison after 27 years and becomes the president unless there's a script and a plan behind the scenes to remove the economic sanctions from whites in South Africa, but no real plan for redistribution of the wealth. The Oppenheimers, the De Beers, and others there sucking the blood of our people. So I said, be merciful. Give them a period of time. Truman gave the Japanese a period of time. But when they didn't comply, he dropped the bomb on men, women, children, and babies. I make no apology for that. I believe that the invasion of South Africa was an act of unprovoked war. One nation against another nation. And nations must fight for the self-determination. They had no business there, Mr. Donahue. Yes.
But again, this is what we can expect from beggars or someone in the white man's pocket. What the end result is? Well, it's continuous abuse with little to no black progress. And that's why we still have such an upside-down wealth gap in South Africa and out-front mistreatment of the black people in South Africa, despite so-called black representation. I'm just going to come out and say it. As a black leader of any nation, you can't be afraid to lose your life. You can't have some sort of immediate need from them either. And you also can't be cavalier. And I'm also of the opinion if you exhibit just 2 of these 3 qualities, most white leaders around the world will at least respect you and your people. But you ultimately have to be fearless against the white supremacists.
Your comments appear to bespeak a political position in which you have no interest at all in reaching out and hoping and working for a multiracial community of harmony and peace. Am I correct in saying you have forsaken that idea?
My arms are tired, Phil. We've reached out for 500 years.
Too late now.
We've faced tanks. We've faced water hoses and cattle prods. Vicious dogs bit the breast of black women off in those protest marches of the civil rights movement. Vicious 4-legged dogs sicked on us by 2-legged dogs, bit into the groin and the private parts of black men, women, and children. So, Mr. Donahue, I believe that the white man is absolutely disagreeable to live with in peace, and that no one has been able to get along with him nowhere on the face 196,940,000 square miles of the planet Earth.